Yo, what up, Night Nation? I want to give my thoughts on this past weekend's loss to Kansas State. I have a few takeaways. I kind of put those five key takeaways in my most recent post, but I wanted to expand on my thoughts. Obviously, after any UCF loss, we're all pretty hung up about it, all pretty sad about it, including myself. Was majorly bummed in the game. But I was also majorly bummed in the game because it felt like a very, very winnable game for UCF. Let me just start though with, expectations. First of all, prior to this season starting, most of the college football world, most UCF fans had Kansas State penciled in as a loss. It was on the road. It was going to be our first ever Big 12 game, Big 12 conference game. And Kansas State was coming off a top 25 season where they won the Big 12. So we were facing the defending Big 12 champs on the road in our first ever Big 12 conference game. And then about a week ago, the tide, at least inside UCF Nation, changed. The opinion changed of this game for a couple of reasons. One was because Kansas State dropped out of the top 25 after losing on a last-second SEC record 61-yard field goal to Missouri. So everyone's like, oh, they lost. But let's be honest, it was a very close loss. It was a 61-yard field goal. I don't want to say lucky, but almost like lucky that he hit that and they lost the game. It wasn't like they got blown out by some lesser opponent or how some of these other Big 12 teams have looked so far this year. It was a one possession loss on a crazy field goal. And then they dropped out of the top 25. Secondly, they got banged up in the game. And it was announced that their star linebacker was lost for the season and their starting running back was out for the year, and that their starting quarterback, Will Howard, may miss the game. So we got this kind of really false sense of confidence that they're missing three guys, that's great for us. But look, guys, this is a Big 12 team. This isn't the American. Any respectable Big 12 program can withstand the loss of two starters. And that's all it ended up being. It was two starters. And yeah, maybe their quarterback was banged up, but he obviously played fine and was good. And even if he had missed the game, that may have, I could see why we would be really confident about that, starting a freshman quarterback, a true freshman quarterback. But he obviously is probably pretty good if he's at Kansas State. So Big 12 has the depth to withstand these types of injuries. That's the whole thing with the Big 12. They're deeper at every position than a group of five school. They can withstand losses to their starters, and clearly they did. Their backup running back had almost 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. So, really not much of a drop-off there. So we got this false sense of confidence from basically them being a little banged up and because they lost one game. But it shouldn't have been that way. They were obviously still a very, very strong team. And then, second of all, so we had this false sense of confidence. And then, remember, we penciled this game in as a loss. But really, this game to me, even though we lost and even though I'm bummed out, I saw a lot of great things in this game. I mean, first of all, we were very, very competitive in this game. And I was really enthused by that. Let's talk about how the fact, we had the lead early in the third after going down at halftime, okay? Then the game was tied until the very end of the third quarter when Kansas State scored with about 2 minutes left in the third. And then it was a one-possession game. Kansas State was only up by one touchdown until about 4 and change left in the fourth quarter. So we went toe-to-toe with them for essentially 3.5 quarters, or a little bit over 3.5 quarters, until they pulled away at the end and the score looked, bigger than it really was. But what happened in this game was just so many errors on our side. Like, obviously, Kansas State gets credit. They won the game. They were the better team. But think about how many mistakes we made in this game that didn't happen. We're probably winning this game. We had drive killers. We had things that extended Kansas State's drives and allowed them extra possessions and ultimately to score. I mean, you had the Trayvon Morris brash late hit on Will Howard that absolutely killed us when we could have gotten off the field. We had an offsides penalty at 4th and 1 that would have probably gotten us the ball, and then that extended their drive again. We had an RJ Harvey turnover in the red zone that would have likely been a touchdown that obviously killed our momentum. We had a Timmy McLean interception that absolutely killed our momentum. We had a bunch of false starts. Then we had obviously the delay of game penalties. I mean, we had 3 delay of game penalties in the game that backed us up from, third and short or whatever it was, second and short to second and third and long that made the drive a lot tougher than it needed to be. I mean, these are things that Kansas State didn't cause. That is on us if we're having, a late hit, a delay of game, offsides, things like that were just self-inflicted wounds. But overall, I thought we hung super tough. And we had the thing that eats me up out of this game is we had a chance to win. This was not a blowout. This wasn't something like, like I'm just going to throw a random example out there, but like UCF Michigan in 2016, where Michigan just handled us from start to finish. There was no chance in that game. We were not winning. It was never close. This game was a 1-possession game until 5 minutes to go in the game on the road. We brought it. We were right there hanging with them toe to toe, and we showed our speed. I think we showed some depth. We just made too many mental errors and too many mistakes. So to me, I was sad for a while, but I woke up today feeling a little bit enthused because we hung toe to toe with the defending conference champions who knows, they could win the conference again. They look pretty damn good. So let's not hang our heads too low when we lost a close game. I know the final score looked, like a semi blowout, 2 touchdowns. We were down 3 at one point, but it was a close game until the very end. Timmy McLean, he showed some really nice touch on the long ball. He had a great touchdown throw to Kobe Hudson, who played pretty lights out. But Timmy, I think, struggled under pressure. When he was getting, rushed and blitzed, he did not perform well. He kept backing up, and getting sacked. He did not throw the ball away. He just did not look good under pressure. He didn't use his legs to his advantage. I think he had 12 rushes for 15 yards. He didn't get anywhere with that, and he just made too many mental errors under the lights with a raucous crowd and just didn't do what he should have done in several key moments. It was an up and down game. It's not like he played horrible. He had 3 touchdown passes, only 1 interception, but he just made a lot of mistakes between the delay of games and just not being able to evade sacks, which is also partially on the offensive line. But I thought my big thing was I thought the offense played pretty well. Once again, we showed we could move the ball. We were moving the ball fairly well throughout most of the game. We were getting first downs. We were getting in the red zone, but you had a sure touchdown, probably, or at least points, field goal that was ended because of an RJ Harvey turnover. Obviously, Colton Boomer missed a field goal that could have been 3 more points. Timmy threw an interception on a drive that we were, starting to move, up the field and marching down the field. But overall, I thought the offense played pretty well. They put up 31 points. They moved the ball again pretty smoothly. I didn't think that they had too much issues with Kansas State's defense. They just made a ton of mental errors and mistakes that were drive killers and momentum killers. Defense, on the other hand, played pretty bad. Yes, they limited Kansas State to the mid-20s for most of the game, but Kansas State was driving the ball, and their running back torched us. I mean, he had 4 TDs on the ground. Will Howard, their quarterback, had over 60 rushing yards and 2 rushing TDs. The run D did not play good, and they did not get any pressure on the quarterback. We had 1 sack in the game. Very few quarterback hurries. He was pretty much protected the entire game, and that gave them a lot of time to throw the ball and have clean drives and clean plays because we did not put a lot of pressure on him. So the D-line wasn't great. The linebackers definitely did not play well in this game. The secondary was so-so. So the defense definitely hurt us in the game, but it wasn't like, they were scoring at will or something like that. Once again, defensive penalties killed us. We had 4 flags on defense, just between the late hits and offsides, things that we caused. It wasn't like that was Kansas State doing that to us. So there was, some of those that we had a 4th down and a 3rd and long where we would have gotten the ball back. But that Tremont Morris brash late hit on the quarterback, that to me kind of put the nail in the coffin. That was where we could have got off the field and it extended the drive. And that was that. I mean, but if you think about it, we don't get those two penalties. We get the ball back. We get an extra possession. We go down and score. It's a completely different game. So those are things you just have to clean up, and you can't do against a good team like Kansas State. But overall, I felt we were, like I said in my post, I felt we were very competitive. It wasn't at any time where I felt like we were getting blown out or we couldn't hang with them. They just pulled away at the end, and a lot of it was due to our mental mistakes. So to me, I take away a lot of good from this game. I feel like we're gonna rack up some Big 12 wins. I think we can beat Baylor no problem. I think we have a good chance against Kansas. To me right now, the only game where I feel that we're gonna be overmanned is in Oklahoma. I don't see why we couldn't win any of the other Big 12 games besides Oklahoma. I'm not saying we're gonna go, whatever it is, 7-1 the rest of the way out. We'll probably have a couple losses, but I think we're going to be competitive in every game besides maybe Oklahoma, and we're going to win a lot of these games. I think we are, based on what I saw against Kansas State, going to go over 500 in conference play, and I think we're still going to have a good season. I like the depth. I like what the offense is doing. I just think we need to clean some things up, and these are all things that are fixable. These aren't like lack of talent, lack of depth, lack of personnel. This is just mistakes that they have to work on and clean up. So, with that being said, I'm excited for the rest of the year, and I think we can come back from this and learn from this. Timmy's going to need to be better. The defense is going to need to be better, but they can be and they will be. And I think it starts next week against Baylor. They're 1-3. There's no reason we're favored by 9 in the game. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to beat them in front of our raucous home crowd. Our first ever Big 12 home game. We should be able to get this dub, start out 4-1, and get that momentum back. All right, go Knights, charge on.